Coming up ahead in this episode of Xtalks Spotlight.
We want to make sure that we're setting up both patients and sites for success. So that starts with site training, study design, ensuring that sites have the tools and the resources to have those frequent touch points, that proactive planning, because retaining one patient may mean something and then another patient a totally different solution, because the barriers to participation or continued participation are different.
Hello, and welcome to Xtalks Spotlight, illuminating insights from subject matter experts and industry thought leaders. I'm Sonia Hunt. In this episode, we're asking a critical question. What is the future of patient engagement planning?
In an era where patient centricity is more than a buzzword, how far should personalization go? From counseling services to gym memberships, sponsors are exploring new ways to support participants. But at what point does added care risk influencing trial outcomes? In this Xtalks Spotlight, I spoke with Stephanie Galarza, Associate Director of Patient Recruitment at IQVIA, about the critical balance between meaningful engagement and scientific integrity. We examined why some sites require extensive supplemental support and what that means for site selection strategies. Finally, we tackled one of the toughest challenges, planning for long-term follow-up and retention, in a world where patient expectations and technologies are constantly evolving. Join us as we unpack these questions and share actionable insights for building engagement models that are inclusive, scalable, and designed to deliver measurable impact without compromise. Thank you for taking the time for this Spotlight interview, Stephanie.
Oh, not a problem. I'm really excited to be here and get into the questions.
So to start us off, let's begin with personalization in clinical trials. How much is too much, and could you comment about things like counseling or gym memberships?
It's a great question that I get a lot when we're talking about adding like registered dietitian counseling or reimbursement for different types of solutions like gym memberships, even meals and planning like that. So when we add these solutions, what our goal is really one, to support everyone in the same way, right? So have a little bit of standardization there. But oftentimes, especially in obesity protocols, we have this vague lifestyle counseling that's included. And the goal is to support patients to be able to implement that lifestyle counseling. So everybody's going to exercise in their own way. You know, you couldn't pay me to go for a run. But enabling the patients to do that really leads to better results. And so some patients will lose weight because they're exercising and they've improved their diet. And then we expect, if the drug is working, for the patients who are receiving the drug to lose more weight, to have a more significant impact. So they're really supposed to work hand in hand and improve the lives of patients. What I will say is that we try to standardize as much as possible. So when it comes to the counseling, making sure that similar strategies are applied across, but that there are customizations for some of the patients. So if you have to have a certain calorie deficit, how is that patient going to achieve that? Because the diet in the US is going to be different than the UK or in Japan, for example. So we want to make sure that we're customizing in a way that makes it realistic for patients to follow along with the protocol. So I would say that solutions like that are intentional and have a lot of thought behind them strategically to make sure that we aren't providing so much personalization that the results are then not valid.
Now, Stephanie, could you tell us why sites would be selected if they needed a high level of supplemental support?
We understand that retention in studies is really important, that sites are strapped for resources, and we want to go to the best sites that have the biggest patient population, but sometimes they don't have the capacity for that, or we want to, again, provide that standardization across sites, and how can we really support them and allow them to provide the best care possible. So it's not necessarily about the sites not having skills or not having patients, but reducing their burden to enable them to perform at the highest level and provide that level of care in turn to the patients. So when we talk about supplemental site staffing, or we talk about providing virtual registered dietitian counseling, we find that some sites don't have that resource, or the level of counseling that is needed, is not enough to hire a person at the site. So we're allowing more sites to participate when we're providing this supplemental support through these virtual counseling sessions or through a study coordinator, to make sure that we're getting to the widest population and a representative population, as well as expediting timelines and ensuring that the best sites get selected and in turn the best patients.
And lastly, how do you plan for long-term follow-up and retention?
So this one's a really big topic. There are a bunch of moving parts that we take into consideration when we know that a study is going to be extended. Um, so very often our focus is on recruitment. We want to get as many people involved in the study as possible, get the best people involved. And part of that is selecting people who understand the commitment and the requirements needed, but also the value of them staying in the study. And the way that we support sites in communicating that is by providing them with training, providing them with resources. So really planning for that retention up front, even though we know recruitment is the star of that show when we're setting up studies. How can we get to that milestone? We want to make sure that we're setting up both patients and sites for success. So that starts with site training, study design, ensuring that sites have the tools and the resources to have those frequent touch points, that proactive planning, because retaining one patient may mean something and then another patient a totally different solution, because the barriers to participation or continued participation are different. Um, so when we're doing that, we're thinking about the patient population. Who are we looking for? What are their unique challenges? In obesity studies, it may be that these are working professionals that generally don't feel that ill. So going to the doctor very frequently, having all of those follow-ups is not a part of their regular life. So how can we facilitate that, make it easier, reduce the amount of time that they're spending on sites, but also giving the sites the information to have those conversations, work around the challenges for those patients. For other studies, it might be that patients are in town for a short period of time, thinking about young adults or young professionals that may be moving around for school or their career. And so when we're selecting people, we have to make sure that we're communicating clearly that commitment. And then, of course, having transition plans. If something does happen, how can we mitigate that risk and keep that person participating as long as possible? So that really helps to build that motivation, ensuring that we have the commitment from patients and sites to really make it across that milestone. I would say in obesity studies, a lot of the concern is around side effects, that patients are titrating up on medication and they have these side effects. So how can we support them? Are we providing them with over-the-counter strategies? Are we providing them with the expectation that this is temporary, and once they're titrated up, they won't have so many side effects? Setting those expectations and then providing them with these strategies and solutions really goes a long way in making sure that patients remain in studies.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for speaking with us today. We really appreciate your time and insights.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to share my opinions and experience.
We look forward to learning more about IQVIA's work in patient engagement planning. Thank you all for joining us for this Xtalks Spotlight feature. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.